day to everyone. Welcome to Reading the Philippine History subject. I am Wilmay Pasionella, and our topic for today is Agrarian Reform Efforts under Marcos. So, in this topic, we will learn about the history about how Marcos handled his presidency, what is the purpose of the agrarian reform, and so on. But before we start to our topic, we will know first who is Marcos. Ferdinand Emmanuel Agrarian Marcos Sr. was a Filipino politician, a lawyer, a kleptocrat, who served as a 10th president in the Philippines from 1965 to 1986. He was born on September 11, 1917 and died on September 28, 1989. So, what is agrarian reform? The agrarian reform means the redistribution of land regardless of crops or fruits produced the farmers and the regular farm workers who are landless, irrespective of tenurial arrangement, to include the totality of factors and support service, designed to lift the economic status of the beneficiaries and all. So, ang agrarian reform ay ang reformang agraryo at ito ay nangangahulugan ng muling pamamahagi ng lupain, anuman ang mga pananim o prutas na ginawa sa mga magsasaka at regular na manggagawang bukid na walang lupa. So now we will tackle about these two words. These two words will be the land reform and the agrarian reform for us to understand well. So first is the land reform. So the land reform in the Philippines, it is a process of redistributing land from the landlords to tenant farmers in order that they will be given a chance to own a piece of land to improve their plight. Kapag sinabing land reform, so ang ibig sabihin nito ay nais lamang natin na magkaroon ng redistribution o maipamahagi ang lupang mula sa mga landlords o sa mga nagmamay-ari ng lupa. Ito ay ibahagi sa mga magsasaka na sila ang nagtatrabaho at nagsasaka ng mga lupa. And when we say agrarian reform, it is defined as the rectification of a whole system of agriculture. Agrarian reform is concerned with the relation between production and distribution of land among farmers, the processing of raw material that are produced by farming the land from the respective industries. So, agrarian reform na ang ibig sabihin ay nagnanais na maging buo ang sistema ng agrikultura at ito ay nakalagay sa Republic Act 6657 na prinoklama at itinaguyod ni Corazon C. Aquino na ito ay naglalahad o nagsasabi sa agrarian reform na ito na kung buo ito, hindi lamang ito tumatalakay sa land reform. Ito din ay upang maiangat ang mga magsasakang Pilipino. So, ano nga ba ang pagkakaiba ng land reform at agrarian reform? Kapag sinabi nating land reform, ito ay maipamahagi lamang ang lupa sa mga magsasaka na galing sa mga landlord o sa mga nagmamay-ari ng lupain. At ang agrarian reform naman ay hindi lamang ipamahagi ang lupa sa mga magsasaka na galing sa mga landlord. Ang agrarian reform ay isang buo na sistema ng agrikultura na kung saan ito ay nagtataguyod at nagbibigay pantay na pagnanais at pag-angat sa buhay ng mga magsasaka. So, I have this editorial cartoon. Sa editorial cartoon na ito ay ipinapakita ang kasanayan ng buhay ng mga Pilipino. Ang mga Pilipinong magsasaka ay ninanais na matugunan ang mga pangangailangan sa araw-araw at sa kanilang buhay. Ito ay binigyan na ng solusyon ng mga gobyerno, ngunit hindi pa rin nagiging matagumpay. Agrarian reform just doesn't want to distribute the land but also wanted to do the farmers less become better in order to them to become better and fair and also to be better with their own lives. So, kumbaga, gusto rin ng mga gobyerno na magkaroon ng pagkapantay-pantay na pamumuhay ang mga magsasakang Pilipino at upang magkaroon rin sila ng sapat na kita at pagkain sa araw-araw upang mabuhay ng masagana. So for me, for my own opinion, the editorial cartoon was shows that the government wanted to support the life of Filipino farmers, but it is not happening. Why? Because of the landlord, or what we call the landowner. Yes, we have the agrarian reform, but for me, there is no change and there is no development. No development in change to the life of Filipino farmers. How? So for me, it's because of being usurped by the private landowner. And if you critically think and open your mind, there is truly no change and no development. The agrarian reform is useless in their purpose because it doesn't exist. Because until now, the Filipino farmers, is very poor and it is not given justice. So I have here a short video to show about agrarian reform under Marcos during his term.
Of troops. They cannot succeed without the support of the people. We cannot succeed without the support of our people. I am happy to see that the reaction throughout the country is favorable. I have received hundreds and hundreds of telegrams from all corners of the Philippines congratulating you and incidentally me for the proclamation of martial law, for the sudden cessation of anarchy and of criminality throughout the land, and of the re-establishment of an atmosphere of brotherhood amongst Filipinos. Now everybody seems concerned about his neighbor. Now everybody seems to be involved in the destiny not only of himself but of the entire country and of the entire nation. And this is what we have been hoping and praying for. I repeat, it is necessary to reform in order to attain the victory that we seek. It is necessary that we attain all the objectives that we have set. These objectives are, we must give to the poorest man whatever is his due. The rich man must now understand that this is a new kind of society. We will protect his rights. For whether he is rich or poor, he has rights. And those rights are as sacrosanct as the right of the military to dignity and to a reputation and a standard of proficiency to which he is entitled. Thus it is important that we must tell everybody, and I ask you to do this, to go out to your assignments, to your respective areas, to your units, to your area of operations, and tell everyone that every citizen in this country has rights and those rights will be protected, whether he is a businessman or a mere janitor, whether he is a tenant or a landowner. Those rights will be protected, but we will treat each other as brothers.
So, we hear that Ferdinand Marcos state that we cannot succeed without the support of our people. So, for you, based on your own opinion, what is the reason why Ferdinand Marcos states that we cannot succeed without the support of our people? So, for me, based on my own opinion, Ferdinand Marcos states that because the support of the people is also the strength of unity, impact on the growth of nation. Unity is the country plays an important role in its socio-economic growth. Without unity and the support of Filipino people, our country Philippines will be lead into disintegration. So, kumbaga, kung sa aton pa, country is completely depend on the power of unity and the support of the people.
Agrarian reform under Marcos. What is agrarian reform? It is considered with the total development of the farmers, economic, social, and political transformation. It is designed as the rectification of the whole system of agriculture. In 1972, President Marcos declared martial law, enabling him to wipe out the landlords dominated the Congress. He was able to expand executive power to start fundamental restructuring of government under Presidential Decree Number 27, or also known as Code of Agrarian Reform of the Philippines. What is Presidential Decree Number 27? Presidential Decree Number 27 is signed by President Ferdinand Marcos, emancipated all tenant farmers working on private agricultural lands devoted to rice and corn. And also the land owner may retain an area of not more than 7 hectares if the landlord owner will cultivate or cultivating such areas. To determine the cost of the land to be transferred to the tenant or farmer, the value of the land is 2.5 times the average harvest of 3 normal crop a year. And the total cost of the land shall be paid by the tenant in 15 years. Amortization due shall be paid by the farmers cooperative having right of recourse against him. And last, the Department of Agrarian Reform through its secretary is hereby empowered to promulgate rules and regulations for the implementation of this decree. And next, what were the 5 major components of the President Marcos Agrarian Reform Program? The 5 major components of President Marcos Agrarian Reform Program was the Land Tenure Program. Second is institutional development. Third is physical development. Fourth is agricultural development. And last, human resources. Next, what is the contribution of President Marcos in agriculture? Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos, as way to cope with a nationwide rice shortage arising from the various natural disaster and pest infestation in 1972. Launched on May 21, 1973, its goal was to promote Philippine rice self-sufficiency by raising the Philippines' average of palay crop yield from 90 kabans per hectare to 90 kabans per hectare. The program planned to achieve this by pushing farmers to use newly development technologies, including HYV or high yield variety seeds, low-cost fertilizers, and herbicides. The program included a supervised credit schemes, which was supposed to provide farmers with the funds needed to pay for the program technology package. The central bank designed subsidies, rediscounting facilities for public and private credit institutions throughout the country, encouraging them to give loans to farmers without collateral or other usual Baru
Isa sa mga mainit na pagbabalita ng usapang Amy Marcos at mga advocate at technocracy or the so-called technocrat. Kung ang Pilipinas daw ba ay isa sa mga rice exporting country noong martial law. Naungkat muli ang legacy ni late President Ferdinand E. Marcos regarding sa agrarian reform. Lumutang ulit ang mga katanungan kagaya ng did the Philippines really achieve efficiency in the rice production to the point that we had surplus and exported the grain? Naging rason ito upang magsusulputan muli ang mga tanong na minsan na-overlook kagaya na lamang na did the imposition or authoritarian rule and agrarian reform? Where are from? What sector did the position agrarian reform comes from? How is agrarian reform related? Green revolution? And last, what about crops? And where outside the preview of agrarian reform? So only by taking into consideration some of these issues and concern can we have a better grasp of the topics and arrive some conclusion. Ngayon magsimula tayo sa pinagmulan at ba't ito ay tinatag ang topic about lupain ng Pilipinas o land reform in the Philippines. Ay laman ng mga political debates noon pa mang Spanish colonial period noong People Power Revolution noong 1986. As for today, ang batas ng Pilipinas ay tinatawag na Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Program na carrying out to the revolution. The late President Diosdado Macapagal, ito ay pangalawang presidente after 2014. Before it was called Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Program, tinatawag muna itong Agricultural Reform Code Republic Act 3844. Ang law na ito ay isa sa mga pangunahing batas patungkol sa lupain ng bansa na-implement noong 1963 kay President Diosdado Macapagal. At noong September 10, 1971, the late President Marcos ay nagsumite at lumagda ng code na Agrarian Reform of the Philippines na naging batas ng establish ng DAR o Department of Agrarian Reform na pumalit sa Land Authority. The reason behind bakit itinatag ang Agrarian Reform because of the full attempt sa pag-modernize ng Philippine society. The number 27 or the Presidential Decree number 27 Code of the Agrarian Reform of the Philippines, this begin of the Agrarian Reform during the Marcos regime. Ang Presidential Decree number 27 na ito ay nagsumite noong October 27, 1972. Nag-serve ito as the hallmark of the palatandaan ng Agrarian Reform Program. Ang IRRI o ang International Rice Restrict Institution ay nag-come up ng idea na miracles at ang motivate nito ay para sa maakit ang mga farmers or sa dominant trend. Ang batas nito ay para sa mga farmers na nangungupa ng mga sakahan nila na hindi nila pagmamayari. Ang pwede lamang nila narentahan na lupa ay cultivate na limited sa 7 hectares lamang at kapag wala 5 hectares lamang. With the intervention of the said law, automatically maibibigay sa kanila ang lupa ay magbabayad din sila ng palay or mais. May babayad sila na ang halaga kikitain ng isang average farmer as long as hindi pa nababayaran lahat ng settlement sa batas, then the land will remain his property.